Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to In Defense of the Hays Code, our second episode. I am your host, Ellis Womack. This is my co-host, Zach Anderson. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we will be covering one of my favorite films. I know I said that about It's a Wonderful Life. I promise you won't hear that every episode. But we will be covering The Maltese Falcon. And what is the Maltese Falcon, you ask, ladies and gentlemen? Why? It's the stuff that dreams are made of.
That's right.
In all actuality, The Maltese Falcon was first a book written by Dashiell Hammett, who you will encounter later in the series, hopefully. Another one of his works. It was made into a movie twice before this, once in 1931, another time in 1936. I have not seen the 1931 version, and I've seen just enough of the 36 version to know I never want to see the 36 version. Well, to put the 36 version in perspective for you real quick, Zach, take a discount William Powell. Take Diet William Powell. Please do not hurt me, Warren William fans. That's just how I see him. Take a Diet William Powell and cast him as Sam Spade.
Yikes.
That's the 36 version.
Mm.
It's the only time I've ever felt sorry for Betty Davis. Don't hurt me, Betty Davis fans. I just don't like her. Anywho, this came out in 1941. It was the debut. It was the first film of director John Huston. And it was also the film that put Humphrey Bogart on the map. Those of you that know Bogart as the hero, the wisecracking, private detective, you have this movie to thank. If it wasn't for this movie, he would just be another gangster. And so, like a wonderful cast, but we'll get there. Zach, what did you think of the movie?
Oh man. Well, I wouldn't be wearing this hat if I didn't like it. I'll say this. Humphrey Bogart. He's the he's the quintessential goat. Goat, if I may use a modern term on this old movie show.
Every modern term. Sorry, it was going to be a joke. Go on.
Okay.
Joke died on impact. Just go
on. Hey, that's what we do here. That's what we do here. All right. He is the cool. He's ABC. Always be cool.
Mm-hmm.
He knows. Particularly, let's talk about Sam Spade.
Yes.
Let's go into Spade because there's a lot we can say about Bogart, and you probably have more to say about him later.
Well, you know me. I have more to say about everything. But
that's a good point. Very nice, very nice. Sam Spade is quite the mysterious character for a what you might perceive as a run-of-the-mill detective, private eye gumshoe. There's an old word for you, gumshoe. Maybe that'll redeem myself from the goat comment. But yeah, so you don't always know whose side he's on in this. There is, and I'll say that about every character. Pretty much every character in this movie goes in directions that I wasn't expecting. There was a scene where he looks like he loses his cool. He's fired up, angry, and then he turns the corner and he just smiles. Because it was all for a purpose.
Oh, I almost forgot to mention. And this is something we'll do later down the line. Earlier for us, later for y'all. It's complicated. We do have a returning friend of the channel, by which I mean an actor who we've covered in one of these movies before is in this movie. I didn't realize it until I've looked at the cast list. The lead police detective, the one that's always hassling Spade, is played by Ward Bond, aka Bert the Cop
Bert the Cop.
from It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Really?
Yeah.
I did. Okay. Okay.
I've seen both movies too many times to count, and they never show him head on. So I was looking up the cast list to try to figure out who his partner on the force was, and it said, "Hey, this character is played by Ward Bond," and I'm sitting there going, "Well,
Come on. Yeah. Are
sorry,
you kidding me?
yeah, I
Yeah.
just wanted to."
That's wild. See, this is why Ellis has this show here, because man, he knows the ins and outs.
And if I don't know it, I'll figure it out. And if I don't figure it out, it'll find me.
And sometimes he just knows things and doesn't know where he knows them from.
Mm.
He'll just be like, "Hey, I know this."
Hey, this actor died. How did I know this?
Right.
Anyway.
So one of the things about this movie is that it's super fast paced. You've got to pay attention to the dialogue, and like I was saying, even their facial expressions.
Mm-hmm.
You will think that Spade has lost it, like his control of emotions, and then he'll do a sly smile, and you realize, oh, that was a part of his plan for this. One of my favorite lines was someone told him, and this is just so I don't know if gangster is the right term, but very slick, very slick. This a character says to him that I wasn't telling the truth, and he said, "Oh, we didn't think you were.
We didn't believe you. We believed the $200.
That's it. Come on, son. Come on, son. We didn't believe you. We believed the $200." So, he has Spade has a way of seeing through people. And when he doesn't, he tests them in order to find out where they stand. And which is so cool.
You very rarely see him on. I don't know if you ever see him on the back foot in the movie. Maybe once, but
Yeah, and so on the back foot is even used in the movie. That term, which is well, why don't you tell us what that means?
I mean, you very rarely see him where he's like caught off guard, or where he's the one, I don't want to say not in control, but where he's at a complete loss as to what to do.
Yeah. On the back foot, leaning back, like, oh no, what am I gonna do? You're right. He's always got a plan, even when things don't look good for him. I mean, he doesn't lose it.
The man gets held at gunpoint twice by the same person within a span of like a minute. And when he pulls the gun on him the second time, I mean, yes, Sam Spade complies and, puts his hands behind his head, but at the same time, he's laughing because, you just, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah. Even at gunpoint, he's not going to freak out.
No.
And so you, as I was saying, you never really know who's on what side, and there's a lot of duplicity, and even triplicity. I don't think that's a word. But
Oh, but this movie's determined to make it one.
yeah. Well, Miss Wonderly,
Mm-hmm.
she has like 3 names.
She does.
Or so she doesn't have 3 names, but she gives three names, and other people are, there's nicknames, and there's different like there's everybody's got an angle.
And it's funny you specifically mentioned she had 3 names. This just occurred to me. A certain other character who we'll talk about him later, but I'm trying to keep him in the dark so you don't know who he is even when we talk about him, has 3 passports.
Yes.
Yeah, when Spade's going through his stuff and so,
Well, why don't you go into that? Why don't you lay into some of the cast?
Oh, the cast in this movie. And yes, of course, most movies, oh yeah, the cast is amazing, but there are people in this movie that were not famous when this movie came out that will be famous later. Some of you who like old horror movies might be familiar with the name Elisha Cook Jr. He had not a small role, but not a medium. He's kind of floating in the middle between side character and actual person with agency.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a role in this. Of course, although certain parties don't like him, Peter Lorre was in this film.
I love Peter Lorre.
Mm-hmm.
He cracks me up.
He's so recognizable.
Yes, he's got well, he has the voice, but then also, he's nervous, and it's like even though he is a small guy, he like gets smaller when he gets nervous. I love Peter Lorre. Everything I see him in, he makes me laugh. Yeah. So what an excitement to see him in this movie. Yeah. What a man. The people that you're talking about. Yeah. Keep it rolling. Keep it rolling.
Yeah. Christmas movie fans in the audience. Or I should say particularly old Christmas movie fans in the audience, might be surprised to hear that this is Sidney Greenstreet's, the Gutman, the Fat Man, his first role. Reportedly, he was absolutely terrified because he'd done a lot of theater, but this 60-something at the time, 64? This was his first on-screen role. He and Peter Lorre would go on to make some odd 9 films together.
Oh, wow.
Most of the cast in this movie would go on to star with another member of this cast a handful of times.
Okay.
Including one film where they tried to bring the cast back together, but Bogart's star had risen a little too high.
I see.
So they gave Peter Lorre his role, which was the dashing ladies' man. And when I tell you that was a stretch, let me assure you, that was a stretch.
Oh, we've got to watch that one. Hello, my dear. Yeah, I can't picture that. I'm looking forward to that one.
But, and of course, talking about the cast, who can forget Mary Astor, who played Mrs. Wonderly? I almost gave one of her other names. She's been in several movies. She had the distinction of playing Judy Garland's mother twice. Again, Christmas movie fans, because it is a Christmas movie. I don't care what certain members of the audience will probably argue in the comments. You know who you are. She was in. She played the mother of the family in Meet Me in St. Louis.
Okay.
I mean, it's such. In terms of number, it's a small cast.
Yeah, it is.
It to me, the word I would use to describe this movie, particularly towards the last third of the movie, it's a very claustrophobic film.
Okay.
Especially once all the parties end up in that one apartment building.
Right. Yeah.
It's such a claustrophobic film. It almost reads like a stage play.
Yeah, it does.
Um,
I can see that. That would actually be cool to see.
oh, it would. But
I'd
I
go.
don't know. Oh yeah. And the interesting thing, bouncing back to the casting, is the fact Humphrey Bogart does such a good job. I mean, Humphrey Bogart is the quintessential Sam Spade, despite the fact he looked nothing like how Spade was described in the book.
In the book?
In the book, I tried to find either of my copies of the Maltese Falcon. Don't know where they are. But in the book, Sam Spade is described as being 6 foot tall. Bogey was 5'8".
Yeah, yeah.
Blonde hair, hook nose. I think
Wow.
they even gave him like a widow's peak. The main thing I remember, the description basically called him slightly Satan-like in appearance.
Oh no.
Um,
That's not Bogart.
No.
That's very all of that description is it's like, okay, let's pick someone who looks nothing like the guy in the book.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I couldn't see anybody else playing him, and trust me, I've seen other people play Sam Spade. Again, do not attack me, Warren William fans in the audience. I like him in other movies, just not that one.
Not for Spade.
No.
Gotcha.
And what's interesting again about the Maltese Falcon, and ladies and gentlemen, you've seen at least one episode. You know I tend to jump around, so please just this invented the film noir genre. People might argue it didn't technically invent it, but this was a very early example, even maybe a proto example. It came before the film noir genre, but it influenced it so much.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, femme fatale, the private detective, the gangster with all of his little underlings.
Yeah, for sure. And I love film noir movies, but and I think that this is a prime example of exactly that. There, I don't know. When I think of film noir, I think of more guns, but this movie, yeah, man. I think what you said, like maybe the prototype. Like here's where film needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
We're teaching you. This movie was like teaching Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where the direction that you should go in. Good luck beating it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a gold standard.
And like I said, the fact this was somebody's first film.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't done by some, this wasn't directed by some Hollywood, giant who had directed all these other films. This was somebody's first film.
It's wild.
And Bogart wasn't even the first choice to play Spade.
Really?
They approached another gangster actor. I don't know if you'll. I don't know what movies you've seen, so I don't know if the name will sound familiar to you.
Okay.
George Raft.
Spell his first name.
Jeorge. George.
Okay, George Draft.
Raft. Like
Raft, like a boat.
Like a boat.
Okay. No, I don't recognize that name.
That's
who they first picked?
Yeah, he's another gangster actor.
Okay.
Whose star was probably a little brighter than Bogart's back during the 30s. But Raft turned it down because he didn't think it was a big enough role for him. He didn't think, it was going to be that big a movie. He used some sort of contract clause that said he didn't have to star in remakes.
Oh, wow.
Which was not the first, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't the last film that Raft gave up and Bogart snatched.
Well, I mean, the thing is that if anybody else had have done the movie,
mm-hmm.
even if it was George Raft,
mm-hmm.
It might have been a good movie.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have been the Maltese Falcon like we know it today.
Yeah, because
not just for obvious reasons that it's a different actor, but for the reason that he is so cool in what he does. And he didn't look like the character in the book, but I have a feeling he played that character, with the Bogartness.
Oh yeah, and it's interesting because before this, Bogart was second string. Bogart was the guy you called in if you needed a gangster for a bad guy.
Oh, for a bad guy.
Yeah, or if you needed, like, if it's a gangster film, because I know he was in a couple gangster films with another actor named James Cagney.
I like me some Cagney now.
Oh, Cagney's great. We'll cover
Yeah.
Cagney. Don't worry.
Okay.
We'll get
All
there.
right.
But if Cagney was in a film role, doing a gangster film, always count Bogart to be in there, but like second fiddle.
Okay.
Or, antagonist sort of character who's still a gangster. So this movie created a Bogart, in a sense.
I got you.
I mean, his acting chops were obviously. I don't mean to imply that he wasn't a good actor before he started in this. I have several films I love that came out before this that had Bogart in it. But this movie helped to sort of build the base that the mythos of Humphrey Bogart would be built on.
I got you. So who Bogart is known for,
right?
The legendary status of who he is, sprung forth from the Maltese Falcon.
Right.
Okay.
And I'd argue the same thing. Like I said, Sidney Greenstreet. I'm not in. Well, no, Peter Lorre was in films before this because Arsenic and Old Lace came out, and Arsenic and Old Lace came out the same year. What am I saying? But I mean, it launched the careers of several of the actors. And talk again, circling back, talk about the cast because I go as my brain takes me. Even the side characters who show up for one scene were big name actors.
Were they then, or did they become big name actors?
Well, this one was.
Okay.
So the sea captain that stumbles into Bogart's office hands him the little wrapped up package and then dies on his floor.
Right.
Was an actor who was big, I think, since the 20s. Walter Houston, who was the father of John Huston, who starred in his son's first movie as sort of a good luck charm.
That's pretty cool.
And proceeded to troll him during filming by messing up the scene purposefully several times.
No.
Yes.
That's dad's. That's hilarious.
Apparently, on the set, they had all sorts of different plans, different pranks in case any members of the press came by. Or I know they had one that if they had members of the press and John Huston and all. Okay, guys, number 5. Sidney Greenstreet and Humphrey Bogart would get in this terrific argument. Just to troll.
Oh, you're saying the actors pretended to in front of that day and age's TMZ.
Yeah. They would just get in a tremendous argument just to have fun with the press.
So they were trolling the reporters. And so the reporters were like, turmoil on the set.
Right.
Meanwhile, it was the director was like, all right, number 5. And so they did that in front of him. I think that's hilarious. I love that. That makes me laugh. So the cast, all-star cast, and like you said, there was just a few main cast members the whole time. What sets this movie apart to you as one of? So with the few members of the cast, what I'm asking is, what sets this movie above other film noir movies as far as the content of the film? Like, what is it about it?
I'm very tempted to say the script because it was based off a really good book.
Mm,
Because that's a big part of it, I think, is the fact that it did have such pedigree.
mm-hmm.
I may have told you this before now, I don't remember. This movie is technically siblings with The Thin Man because it was
Yeah.
written by the same author,
Okay.
which is really weird to think
Oh,
about.
yeah.
Which is super weird to think about, but
Yeah.
But I think what sets this apart is just everything seems like a cop out answer, saying, "Oh, well, everything sets it apart."
But I mean, if it
Yeah,
does,
but I
it
mean,
does.
literally, if one thing was different, yeah, of course, saying if one thing was different, the whole movie would be different seems common sense. But like, it's such a trying to think of words. The movie is such a magical little thing,
Mm-hmm.
that there's wonderful film noir down the road. I'm a big fan of film noir, but there's very few that feel as mystical as this is because it is, I think, such a simple plot. I think, okay, there's your answer. I talked to myself until I found it. It's the simplicity of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
it's convoluted. Don't get me wrong. It's incredibly convoluted. But when you boil it down to the base elements, when you get down to brass tacks, like the groundwork of the film is very, very um basic.
Yeah. No, that
Like
makes sense.
and I don't think this is spoilers since it references something that happens in the first few minutes of the film. Because I think the whole movie can be summed up with what Sam Spade tells a certain character at the very tail end of the film. When a man's partner is killed, he does something about it. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter what he thinks of him.
Right.
He's supposed to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead.
and so I think that's just like it's all about that. I mean, again, when you boil everything down, it's I don't know. You go on. I'm beginning to lose words.
Well, I think what you're saying really makes a lot of sense and brings clarity to me, and I think it will other people too. Is that it's one simple story,
Mhm.
and it branches out into all these areas, and you're like, what's going on? Multiple names, multiple passports, all this stuff. What is the point of this movie? And then at the end, it all sums it up, and it comes back to just the basic storyline. And so, yeah, man, I think you hit it right on the head there. That's simplicity is a valuable asset in movies. And you can make it, as you put it, convoluted,
Mhm.
to make it interesting and exciting, and still have it just very base level emotions, very relatable. And that's where a lot of the simplicity, I think, comes in. For me, as I was watching it, it was just like, okay, once it was over, I was like, okay, now the whole thing makes sense. I get where Spade is coming from. I get where this character, I get where, um, the antagonists,
Mhm.
plural, where they're coming from. And then, yeah, man, the end of the movie, um, I've heard some people say that it's very satisfying, but
Mhm.
it's also in some ways not what you wanted.
Yeah. My brain keeps going, Mitch, this is like, no, that contains spoilers. You get back here. But yeah, no, because I, yeah, it is satisfying, but yeah, again, it's difficult to talk about it without getting
It
too
is.
far.
It is. We're trying really hard on this channel not to tell you the plot of the movie, but to encourage you to go watch the
Oh
movie.
yeah. Do not take our word as a replacement for the movie. Don't go, oh, well, I don't have to see it because, Ellis gave his opinion as this. Don't do that. But watch it, form your own opinions. Look, if you don't like a movie that I say I love, that's great. That's wonderful. We can have discourse. You can call me an idiot. You're probably right.
Well, that's kind of the cool thing about watching these older movies is that everybody's gonna have different opinions of it, but like in defense of the Hays Code channel is to encourage you go back, watch the movies, see how great they are, but also if see how compare and contrast the movies. Some of them are going to be top notch. I give this one a 10 out of 10. It's a classic. Yeah. All of the things that Ellis put into better words than I could is the reason why I would give it a 10 out of 10. But go check it out. This is fun for Ellis and I. But when you go and you check out some of these older movies, you're gonna find that they hit home a lot of ways the same way they would have when they were first released.
A classic remains a classic. I hate to say because it's a classic, but
Hey, even if it's redundant, it doesn't mean it's not true.
Yeah, because I mean, especially a movie like this, you almost have to watch it because I could sit here and explain the plot to you, but it's not the same as watching it play out. Because first off, you're listening to me. Why would you listen to me when you can go watch Humphrey Bogart? Live a little.
Yeah. You don't want me and Ellis acting out the whole movie.
No.
Sam Spade. Peter Lorre. You don't want that.
No.
Go watch the film.
I'd give it a 10 out of 10. This was one of the first black and white movies I ever sat down and watched on my own.
Okay.
Probably the first. Because not counting It's a Wonderful Life, because watch that at Christmas. Not counting the black and white, technically sepia-toned portions of Wizard of Oz, because that was one of those, hey, this is on, come watch, this is classic. This was the first movie that I was like, oh, I've heard of this. I've read part of the book. Let me sit down and see what this is like. So this movie holds a very, very special place in my heart. And I know the whole thing is I like finding one thing that, oh, maybe this didn't work as well, or maybe this. I'm pulling a blank here, folks. I hate to be that guy, but I am pulling an absolute blank. I'm not saying this is the best movie I've ever seen, or the best movie we've ever covered on the channel, but I'm pulling a blank. One last little fact that's been floating around in my brain. Without saying what it is, the prop of the Maltese Falcon, it sold at auction for a lot of money, and I'm pretty sure it was the version that was chipped.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, there's a visible crack in it because Bogart fumbled it in one scene.
Oh, really?
And it landed on his foot. And I don't know if it broke anything, but I know it hurt.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the reason why you watch the channel is for Ellis's vast knowledge. You watch the movie for the movie. You watch the channel to get the backstory.
And because I need somebody to ramble to. Otherwise, it's all up here, and it never comes out. Uh, but yes, no, please watch this movie for yourself. I say that with all of them, but especially this one, with how convoluted, and it's a mystery. Nobody wants somebody to like go, "Oh, you're reading a mystery book. I've read that. This so and so's the killer at the end." You get slapped
Right.
for that sort of thing.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
get slapped. I'm
No,
I'm
no.
rambling now at this point, ladies and gentlemen. So just watch the film. We both gave it 10 out of 10. And as always, I'm your host, Ellis Womack, and I have nothing but movies and time.